Hello guys, how you going? Squeezilla here, I hope you're all well. So we're going to be doing some live action footage today, and I'm doing a bomb run in the B-17, and this is the G variant, what's the full designation? B-17 G60VE. God, they make names so long sometimes. So, B-17G, there were around 8,680 of these produced, quite a high total. That's of the total G series. Of the VE variant, there were 2,250 produced. Quite a few of them, really. It was one of the sort of main bombers of, well, the main bomber of the American Air Force generally. You had the B-24 Liberator, B-25s, things like that as well in the Air Force. But the B-17 has become the one that most people look at and think of when they see American bombers. Now, there were lots of variants of this plane. There were some very famous ones as well. And it was a very successful plane. It didn't have the bomb capability of the RAF. It had a much lighter bomb capability because it was a sort of defensive bomber, let's say, whereas the British, the RAF and other countries tended to have less guns on their bombers for bombs, basically. There were quite a lot of issues with the B-17 because they used to fly daylight bombing raids, of course, and this was, well, a big issue of the plane. More tactics than anything else, and it caused a lot of problems, unfortunately. The B-17 wasn't just for bombing, however. The Coast Guard flew these with droppable lifeboats, things like that. There was lots of variants of this plane and lots of different uses, and all in all, it's a very cool plane. The thing about it, though, is it's a very pretty plane. You think of a bomber and you think of a B-17 because it just looks the part, doesn't it? I'll go into a full history series at some stage of B-17. It's something that I do want to do at some stage because it's a plane that is much loved by me. It's just, look at it, you know, it just looks the part. It's bristling with guns. It's about the most American thing you can see. But it did have its flaws. One of the sort of main flaws of this plane was sort of maneuverability. And one of the main flaws in the game is maneuverability. Unlike the British planes, for instance, which do tend to have a very good maneuverability factor to them. The American planes tend to struggle a bit in that respect, and that's probably the biggest flaw of them. But they have got the brilliant advantage of basically having defensive armaments, which the British planes just don't have. Often when you're flying a Lancaster, you look at the B-17 and you think, God, I really do wish I had those guns. You know, you just sort of think, oh God, I wish I had 50 cals, and I wish I had decent weaponry, decent sort of use and things like that. And well, what they lack in defensive weaponry, they make up for in the bomb load. Now the B-17 definitely lacks in the bomb load department. You see here I've got the 2,000 pounders on me. Now, you only get 4 2,000 pounders on this plane, but there's two options really for late tier bombing in a B-17, and that's taking out the 1,000 pound bombs, which you'll have 8 of, or the 2,000 pound bombs, which you'll have 4 of. The thing is with B-24 is going right for the base that I was going to go for, but that's how bombing goes these days. You have the choice of either going for those 4 2,000 pounders or the 8 1,000 pounders. Now, for say bombing vehicles and things like that, the 8 1,000 pounders are a better option because you've got more bombs to drop. However, if you're going for bases, then the 4 2,000 pounders are your best option because, well, you need 4 of the American 1,000 pound bombs to destroy a base because they only have about 240 kilograms of TNT equivalent. You carry 8 of them, so you need all 4 of those to hit a base to kill it. Whereas if you're flying with the 2,000 pounders, you only need 2 of them to hit the base and it's dead. So you drop 2, and then you return to base. It's the same equivalent of TNT that you carry, it's just you have them in a much tighter package. And it's something I see a lot of people doing, and a mistake they make when they're flying bombers is they tend to sort of go, oh look, more bombs is better. It's not always the case. You have to work out the effectiveness of bombs. And that's something that not many people take into account, unfortunately. So I'm just enjoying the beautiful scenery of a B-17 inside. Unfortunately, I don't think we've got the exhaust flames for the B-17 just yet, which is sad because that would look very pretty on this evening flight. But yeah, bombs are something you've got to work out first of all. Don't just go for a loadout that has the most bombs. Of course, if you're going for ground targets, like say I was going for the pillboxes over there, then more bombs are going to help. But I'd probably take the 500 pounders. I think you can carry quite a few of those with, with this plane. I think it's more than, I think it's about 12 or something like that, which means you've got more chance of taking out more targets. But if you're going for bases specifically, then you want to take the best yield. So you want to take something that's going to destroy the base with lower chance of missing. And that's where the 2,000 pounders come into play. Now, the other thing is taking your path. Now, in this game, we had 4 bombers. We had Lancasters, we had another B-7, we had a B-24, sorry, got 2 B-24s, and a Lancaster. So, the B-24 and the Lancaster flew direct path to the middle base. And what happened was they got annihilated by the enemy team. The B-24 that returned to base now kept at a sort of high altitude and managed to sneak around before sort of without getting killed. But the other 2 just rushed the base, trying to get to the bases before we, to drop the bombs first. And what's happened is they've just met the enemy head on and got annihilated. It's something very important for bombing, is you need to remember not to rush, because if you rush the bomb sites, you're gonna die. And it's something that happens a lot, and I see it a lot as well. So the best way to do is flank around the outside, basically, is take a longer route, let the fighters get involved and let the enemy get caught up with fighters, so you can sort of sneak past, drop your payload and get home. So our big 2,000 pound bombs are dropping, and they're just about to hit this base nice and centrally. There we go. It's one base taken out. So coming up on our second now. The other thing this allows you to do is to get in position for a good bomb run. So what I mean by a good bomb run is basically being flat on to your bomb targets. So you've got a straight line. So as you saw, I'm coming in straight here from the river, which means I've got these two bomb targets lined up perfectly. So I don't have to really maneuver much, I can just get on my targets without too much issue. And that's something else people need to basically do. Because if you're going in at a weird angle, you have to turn. And turning a heavy bomber is not the easiest thing to do. You sort of have to, you know, you've got the chance of ripping wings, and you've got to really do it properly, because you've got a good chance of missing your target as well. So bombs out there, and let's turn for base. So when you do a hard turn, especially in a B-17, you've got a good chance of ripping your wings off. So you've got to be very careful. So we're just going to idle it here. The enemy have got two planes left. Not sure where they are, but we'll keep an eye out for them.
Preparing.
Bombs are going nicely down. The other thing as well is when you're doing that turn is you can be turning and drop your bombs as you turn. And when you do that, you basically have more of a chance to miss. So you've got to be very, very careful in that situation. Now, another little tip for bombers is set your engines so you have manual control. And what I mean by that is this section, where you can actually select different engines. So let's select 2 and 3, and let's turn them off. So 2 and 3 are our outside engines. So say we're flying along and we get attacked. What this does is it means that we've got the ability to switch off engines. Now that's not always a good thing. We don't want to be switching off our engines if we can choose not to. But say they're damaged and we're nursing at home, what you can do is switch off those engines to get it home easier, which is a huge help sometimes, and it has saved me a lot in games. We'll just switch those engines back on now, because we want to have all our engines available to us, because we're going to be flying over a little bit of flak now. So yeah, it's very important to have that option to switch off engines basically, because if you've got, say, your 2 left engines, for instance, so let's say we lose both our right engines, say. It makes the plane very unstable, and luckily the instructor will help keep the plane flying, but it does make it a little bit troublesome to keep going. So what you can do in a situation like that is basically nurse an engine. Say you've got an oil leak. You can turn off the engine for a little bit, glide, and then turn it back on when you need it. The other option is, of course, just getting as much power to the engines as possible and trying to keep altitude, but this doesn't always work. So it's always handy to be able to play around with your engines, turn them on and off, and basically nurse them, because if you can't nurse your engines, you're not going to get home. So it looks like this match is going to end soon. That BF-109, I doubt it's going to last too long, unless he keeps good altitude and boom and zooms them. But yeah, really for bombing, it's just very important just not to rush, not to be too obvious. End of the day, bombers are not fighters, you know, you can't kill targets with ease with a bomber. Of course, saying that, you know, B-17s, you've got a chance of killing an enemy. You know, if they come in on you, the 50 cals do a horrendous amount of damage to them. So you're not just a sitting duck, but you don't want to actively go looking for trouble. because that's where a lot of issues come in. Your main job as a bomber is to basically harass the enemy, to make them on edge, put it that way. You know, if we had all our bombers up and that last guy was, say, sitting on his airfield or just flying very low around his airfield, then it would be pretty hard to get him. You know, because he's basically camping his airfield, so we can't kill him. Now, that's where bombers can really come into the game, because, well, if we bombed all the bases, we rearm, and then we go for the airfield, it puts him on the back foot, basically. He can't keep camping his base, he's going to lose. So you keep them basically guessing, but you also keep them sort of keep them on their toes, keep them having to actually fight. The other thing is, if they are sitting on their base, it's very hard to you know, boom and zoom and kill them. So you've got to a cat attacking me now. You've got to have, you know, bombers can help a huge amount in that regard, because, well, if somebody's sitting on their airfield and they get a 2,000 bomb dropped on their face, they're not going to have a good day. You do get quite a few people just sitting on the airfield at the end of the game, just, you know, baiting people into the AAA. Even bombers do it, sitting there playing AAA, basically. And they do get quite a few kills from it. But if you've got good bomber pilots who've taken out the bases, rearm, or if they have enough bombs, go for the airfield, then that problem can be solved pretty quickly. A little bit off our target there. Vectors are not looking so good there, so we'll just reposition, get some throttle back in there. And that's a very important thing. Another thing that I notice is, well, bomber pilots can't land for shit. Now, of course, saying that, I'm probably going to fluff my landing here just to prove myself wrong. But it's very important, if you fly bombers, to learn how to land, because you're going to need to know how to do that. It can win or lose a battle. If you're in a battle and you need to rearm, you need to know how to land, because there's no other option. You can't just hang around and hope for the best, especially if you're in a plane like the Lancaster or the Wellington, things like that, where you have decent bomb loads but very little defense. You have to be able to return to base, get bombs, and get back out there. The other thing is, if you do scramble and run to the base to, you know, to get a kill early on in the match. Oh. Pressing the wrong buttons there. You need to learn to land, because you need to rearm. We're coming quite hot here. We're not low enough, but we'll be okay. Throttle up here. You know, so it's very important to know just how to land the bomber, because especially in a situation like this where the new targets have appeared, if you can get the bomber back in the air with some bombs, bomb out those targets, and basically nullify the enemy's advantage. Now, that BF-109, he's got height advantage, things like that. So we're kind of at a stalemate now, and he's going to be able to keep climbing, and they might not be able to catch him. There's nobody else on his team, however, so we pretty much got a good chance of winning this. But say he had a friend, it could be his friend comes and starts taking out the vehicles, and then what happens? We lose the game. And it would be terrible to lose it at this stage. So we've rearmed, and now we've got to get it back in the air. Now, I could have changed my bomb load out there. Probably should have changed it to less bombs, basically. To lighter bombs, sorry. just so I have more of them. But I don't think I'm going to make it to any targets before I get a chance to drop them. Now, luckily here we've got a nice long runway to take off on, but sometimes you'll find you're on shorter runways, and that can be problematic for some bombers, because you can't always get up in the air. What you can do, however, is circle around a little bit, and what I mean by that is actually turn around on the ground to get a longer run time for your takeoff, because, well, sometimes you'll need that. And it's sort of, if you don't think you're going to be able to make the takeoff, the runway distance, you generally start mid-airfield, so you start sort of around about that point there. So you're losing around about 50 metres of runway, 50, 60 metres, in some cases even 100 metres. And that's a huge distance for takeoff. Some planes need, say, 300 metres for takeoff. If you're on a 300 metre runway and you're starting halfway along it, well, you're not going to be able to take off. So you need to know your vehicle and know how it works in that regard, because sometimes you basically you don't have enough runway. So having the ability to know how much runway distance you've got, how much speed you've got, and also your payload is a big thing for bombers. So test flight, play around with that thing, because it is something you need to work on, and if you don't, you're going to have a bad time. Payloads do make a difference as well. If you've got some of the bigger bombs on board, or lots of big bombs on board, your plane's heavier, of course, so you need longer to take off. The other thing with the B-17, for instance, it has the outside bombs, which add more drag. Now, it doesn't affect too much on takeoff, thankfully, but it does affect the airflow of the plane and the aerodynamics, so you are a bit slower. So it's something you need to sort of know. When you first take off, you're going to lose a little bit of speed, simply because you've got two whopping great big bombs underneath you disrupting the airflow. Now, B-17s aren't the most aerodynamic plane in the world anyway, but it's still enough to make a difference. So, it's like the BF-109 is going into a dogfight with the FAF there. On 6, so might be ending this pretty soon. Hard to tell from this distance. So, in this position, we've got a long flight to the targets. One of the other issues is there's this little airfield here, which has quite a lot of AAA. So, we're probably going to go for this set of targets here, first of all, and then fly to that one. But they are all close to the enemy airfield, which can be really, really bad for a large target like a B-17. The F-109 is going down in a dive there. Still looks okay, so it looks like he's just trying to get away from the FAF. But it could have some damage. It looks like he's not pulling up, so I think we're going to be... Oh, no, just got in at the end there. So he's going to be heading to his airfield, I reckon, or trying to just get this F8F.
Just keep it up, and victory will be ours.
It's like an epic dogfight over there. You never know, we might be able to help. But honestly, I don't think we're going to make it to the vehicles too quickly. So where's he heading to?
Engaging the enemy.
It's like that FAF has got him on the ropes, and he's going to start to get some AAA fire from our guys underneath him now too. So in a situation like this, it's pretty hard to sort of work out what you're going to do, because there's targets around A that you could go for. Now, if that BF-109 dies, then you're going to regret not going for those targets near A. Of course, If he doesn't die, you're going to regret dropping your bombs and not going for the vehicles. So it's a sort of hard position to be in as a bomber. Now, we've got a friendly Spitfire going in now, so I'm going to make the judgment call, try not to rip the wings off, and actually go for these targets, because I'll use my guns on the vehicles if I get there. So we're going to get quite a lot of flak in this situation. What we want to do is just drop it slightly behind the pillbox, just so we get the AAA as well. But we're going to take quite a bit of damage here. There we go. B-17 is dead, so that is game, set and match for us. So we're just going to want to basically try and get as many points as we can.
Just a little more effort, and victory will surely be ours.
Do a turn and drop that last bomb. We might get a tank. Brilliant, we got some good ground targets before the end of the game there. So that worked out pretty well all in all for scores. But if that BF-109 hadn't died, then we would have had to go for the vehicles. So all in all, that worked pretty well. Okay, let's have a look. So I've got some research unlocked, which is nice. Got a whopping amount of RP there, which is always nice. I have 10% booster running at the moment. So as you see, I've got my bombs unlocked, and also the protective armour for the crew, flak jackets, things like that, because you want to basically have your crew not dying all the time, and that helps a heap, especially with the armour. But the main thing is getting your bombs unlocked first, because those are your bread and butter and those are what you need. Radiator is also important at the start too, as well as of course your guns. Generally I go for the gun belt, protection, bombs, radiator, those four first of all, and then unlock bombs, unlock that, and then start with everything else. So yeah, it's very important to sort of know what you're doing in that respect, because, well, in that end of game there was a chance that, you know, we could have lost if that BF-109 had taken out the F8F. You could have gone after ground targets, things like that. So you've got to be sort of knowing of what's happening. But also you're there to score points and lines, of course. And in a game like that, you know, you get good amount of lines for killing a base. You know, generally with this setup, you're going to be doing about 3.5 tons of damage to ground targets. So that's 11,000. 11,000 lions. Base destruction, 5,820 lions. You know, things like that, they add up quite quickly. It also helps because your activity goes up, things like that, so you get good RP and good line rewards as well. Now, of course, I've got a premium account, so I do have more than normal, but it really does help build it up. In 3 missions today, I've made almost 300 lions. Not 300 lions. 300,000 lines, not 3 missions. About 5 missions today, I've made 300,000 lines. That's one of the beauties of bombers, is you can really farm lions with them. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed the live aspect of it for a bit of a change. I'll be doing a video on the B-17 at some stage in the future, doing the history video. I also want to do the Liberator as well. Okay guys, have a good day, and I will see you next time. This is Screezilla out. Bye bye.